Small businesses around the world have a need to advance to modern accounting systems. Today, over half of small businesses and individual consultants and employees use Word docs, spreadsheets in a very fragmented way. And there's obviously an evolution of moving to cloud-based accounting. Wave has been at the forefront of this for a number of years, Kirk. You've had a lot of success, 84,000 new customers a month. That acquisition clip would be shocking to a lot of founders. So can you talk about how you're able to drive that type of acquisition rate?
We've been really lucky about distribution since day one. So we started the company and got serious about it in 2010, launched at the end of 2010. And in 2011, as an example of just pure luck, we integrated into the Google Apps Marketplace, and 3 months later got picked up by the editor, and all of a sudden we're signing up 150 a day. I think part of it has been that we offer the software for free. Obviously, that's a huge competitive advantage as it relates to distribution. But I also think that we really tapped into sort of the mindset of the small business owner. I think a lot of these platforms are selling to accountants, and it's a very, very different game selling to an accountant than it is selling to a small business owner. And I think we really understood the pain point well and talked specifically to that pain point.
Free is hard to make money with, so
yes.
What's the monetization model after that?
When we first came along, we thought, let's find distribution, and we were heavily influenced by what Mint was doing in the personal finance space. And their path was monetizing through the data and through offers for financial services products. We thought that could work really well for small business, and quite frankly, we were wrong. In 2014, 2015, as we started to grow a much bigger base of users, we started to see that embedding financial services products like payments, like payroll, like ultimately lending and spending cards would be the way forward. And so we were early on in that process, and I think a little bit ahead of the market. And these days, fintech is got a lot of tailwinds, and so we really rode those tailwinds well.
You've had an evolution where you've had some early investors, including BDC. You've had bigger investors as you've gotten larger. What was the pitch to getting people on board?
I'm really proud of the fact that I got to experience every aspect of startup life, from early success, raising from Omer's Ventures and then Charles River Ventures in the US, and then Social Capital in Chamath in 2013, and then started to see, wow, there's some problems with the business. And we talked about making money is hard when you're giving the software away for free. We started to see that, and in 2015, near the end of 2015, BDC came in, and at a time where we were having some challenges, but they really saw what the future could hold, and were a huge, important investor for us at that particular time. And I think as the market started to turn in our direction, we really found that it was much easier to raise. We could start to get money from strategics who were starting to see that this was going to change the way banks were built, et cetera.
Fast forwarding then to 2019, you just had a major exit. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
H&R Block. H&R Block is not a brand that people would associate with an innovation leader like Wave.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a marriage that could create a lot of challenges from a culture perspective.
Yeah.
That had to be a big concern. How do you tackle it?
We met Jeff Jones, the CEO of H&R Block, in early 2019. He comes from Uber and before that Target, with an amazing pedigree. And the most important part of that pedigree was a huge focus on culture and people. And it became very clear early on that we had a lot of alignment around how to build great cultures, how to invest in people, how important that is to success. I think he's done a great job with H&R Block, and I think he saw a kindred spirit in Wave in how we think about things and how we approach the market. And so, I've got very little concern about that moving forward. I think there's a lot of synergies.
When you look at the team you built at Wave, you obviously built a great community of people. It was a diverse community of people. Mm-hmm. Getting the success based on that diversity and now bringing it into the H&R Block world, there's got to be a big opportunity.
I'd be remiss to suggest that we were diverse from day one, because we weren't. And I think that was a growing moment for me. If I look back to the team in 2010, I think oftentimes, or maybe it's just something that I fell into that I shouldn't have. In those early days, you're surrounding yourself with people who who you know in the ecosystem. It's who can you recruit to get into a startup where you're not paying much and all that kind of stuff. Over the years, I started to learn more and more about what diversity of thought can bring. And oftentimes, because you think differently, might be that you look differently as well. But you're looking for that diversity of thought, most importantly. I had an experience in 2017 where I was looking for a CTO. And I had, trained in my head for 20 years what a CTO looked like. And I met this woman named Adeshni from South Africa. And quite frankly, she didn't fit the bill. It was a really big eye-opening experience for me about the ingrained bias that I had. And I actually went to South Africa for a couple of days to just, be with her in her home country. We ended up making the hire one of the best hires I ever made. But it really taught me that I need to get out of my own way, question the bias that I might have. And I think that's led to great things.